living that physical therapy.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, living that physical therapy life now.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good.
You're,
Yeah,
you're a doctor now?
I am.
Dr.
Yeah,
Brendan McNulty.
true.
How's that feel?
Oh, feels no different.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what else is going on? What's up with you?
Got engaged. I think I told you
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, for sure. When you guys getting hitched?
Oh, the longer I wait, the smaller the wedding gets. So I keep pushing it off till maybe it'll be a 10-person wedding.
Really? When?
We when we got engaged, we started looking at places, immediately.
Huh.
Kind of the coronavirus happened and everything.
Uh-huh.
Really just haven't done any planning since.
Okay, okay. Well, nothing smaller than our wedding, man. We're gonna be the two of us and a photographer and top
Yeah.
school 14er, and that's it.
Which one are you gonna go up?
Red Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that to ride the train out there? Is that one of the ones way down in the San Juans?
It's in the San Juans, yeah. Have you ever been up there?
No, is that near Euless and all those ones?
It's right by there. So Red Cloud and Sunshine are right next to each other, and it's really close to Handy's.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. It's like really red rock up there, and hopefully it'll be cool. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weather.
Yeah. So what else, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I know. I was out there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Um
You
yeah,
running?
honestly lately just hobby jogging.
Yeah, that's all right. You're busy.
Yeah, I'm trying to make up for the 20 years I've been really into investing lately
Oh yeah.
for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months,
Okay.
which started off horribly, where I was just going on Reddit, and seeing like, oh, user Satan's butthole 420, good stock. I better pick that one up. But I had no idea what I was doing. So yeah, now that I've got a strategy, I've gotten back to broken even,
Okay.
and then hopefully it trends upward from there. And I kind of chill out around 50 and just work 20 hours a week is the goal.
There you go.
Is this
Nice.
part of your podcast right now?
It's recording. I can either cut it out or leave it in.
It's all good.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So tell me about your work. You're officially a doctor and you're working with people with running injuries.
No, I ended up gravitating a different direction.
Okay.
I know a lot about it now.
Yeah.
And it's been cool the times that I have worked with runners where they a real common situation is somebody comes in like first 10K, first half marathon, first marathon, they had something pop up. And it's cool when you're out there running, because you're in the area and you see them out there running.
Yeah.
Good. But
You're like,
yeah,
oh, your running form's bad. Fix that.
yeah, sometimes. But yeah, I ended up gravitating more towards kind of geriatrics and post-op and
Okay.
kind of just the situations where the goal is less, let me get back to running and more. I just want to be able to walk to the bathroom or get home.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
So are you like going to people's homes and helping them out?
no, I've never got into home health. I mostly work at skilled nursing facilities.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I have one full-time and 2 part-time jobs now.
Yeah.
Kind of burning the candle.
Yeah. Well, you've always done that.
Yeah, just getting paid for it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember when we were roommates, you were always slinging a couple jobs, like, you were always like moonlighting as a dishwasher or just like doing something crazy part-time. And just like always, it was funny, man. Like when we were roommates, half the time, I didn't even know if you were there or not.
And I mean, I'm reclusive by nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm accidentally continuing your neurodiverse theme. I ended up getting diagnosed with autism, which made a lot of sense.
What? You did?
Yeah.
No way.
I know that's what everybody tells me, but inside of the brain wise,
Yeah.
a lot of pieces fell into place at that point.
Whoa. No kidding. I never would have guessed that.
When I was at max stress level, I got worried I just had straight up schizophrenia.
Really?
Where I would have these real severe just kind of like delusions is the only way to describe them. You know,
Mhm.
and I've called people at like 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, are you suing me? Because
What?
like I wrote this whole scenario in my head. You're suing me about something, and they would be like, no, not at all. So I saw a psychiatrist, and I was telling him, and he just told me like, oh, that's autism anxiety. Just
What?
some small little thing happens, and your brain just kind of keeps churning.
Wow.
Unless if the Virginia Association of Physical Therapy is listening, I made all that up. But
Of course. That's crazy, dude. I never would have guessed that. So it's just like on the spectrum, autism, just a very, very small part of your brain, or
so the underlying thing, at least, Asperger's, that term, I guess, has fallen away.
okay.
But the underlying idea mainly is that there's a lot of focal neuronal connections and fewer connecting the different parts of the brain. Or there's the stereotype of the special interest,
Oh,
kind of hyper focus, which kind of comes from an area called the anterior cingulate cortex, just not connecting as much to the prefrontal cortex, which is
okay.
kind of a lot of your consciousness,
Mhm,
your
mhm.
decision making and all that.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different things. Like, as soon as I started actively trying to make eye contact with people, it occurred to me, for how many decades, was just not looking at anybody in the face ever.
Wow.
This guy in my facility, who I'm supposed to be evaluating him sometime this next week, but he's a blind guy with Asperger's, and I just am so tempted to tell the guy, like, hey, you missed out on the worst part, the eye contact.
So are you doing any sort of treatment or like taking any sort of medication, or what does that look like?
No, I took Prozac for a month, and it made me so tired. I was just floating through life in a daze.
Okay.
But now, honestly, now that things are kind of ironing out, got the job set, got the girl,
Mm-hmm.
planning for retirement, just the anxiety's not that high anymore. So
Good.
that's
Good.
how it sorted itself out.
Okay. Have you continued with therapy or no?
No, I mean, that's an idea. Probably should. But I
Yeah.
mean, one of my main projects, I'll call it right now, is this guy. Let's see. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's young. He's in his 30s, but he's 500 and some pounds. And he got pneumonia, ended up in the hospital, medical coma for a month, a trach and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the physical part is very simple. He's just a big guy who's got to move more. He's got a flight of stairs to get home.
Mm.
But cognitively, this guy is a train wreck. And it's almost like he's kind of stuck at about 14.
Mm.
And this is why I like the setting I'm in, because I can look back on my life, just all the stuff that you try to think, who was it that I met, that pushed me in the right direction? What did they do?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out how to give this guy a pat on the back with one hand and a kick in the butt with the other.
Okay.
You can't go 100% tough love, but you also, this is a guy who would want you to hold the urinal for him, laying in bed. So I'm kind of, I build him up, but I also try to gradually work in more. Like, if I show up for therapy and he's like, oh, dude, like, can you hold the urinal for me? I'll just tell him, like, no, you can do that. You want me to do that? Really?
You're on your own, buddy.
Yeah. And so, I keep working more and more things that are well within his range.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my next rule, he likes to just wear the hospital gown, because it's a little bit of a challenge for him to, like, put on a pair of shorts. So I think that's where I'm going to push him next week, is just tell him, hey, new rule, got to get dressed for therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Baby steps.
yeah, it truly is. Yeah, one of my other big projects right now, this lady used to drive me insane. She's a long-term care person, had a stroke, so one arm's kind of spastic, the leg on that side's pretty weak. She's a little OCD, and she used to drive me crazy when one of her roommates was my patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go in to see that lady, and she'd always have, like, can you move that chair a little this way, and blah, blah, blah. And if you walked past the room, she'd yell at you from out of the hallway. And for years, I mean, 5-10 years, all she's been doing is sitting in a reclining wheelchair. And then out of nowhere, she just decided she wants to walk again. So I'm like, well, let's go for it. So it's been about a month. We've gotten to where she can stand up enough to kind of lift her butt off the seat.
Okay.
But that's she's probably my other big project right now.
Dang.
In terms of trying to see just, a lot of people, it's, hey, you had a knee replacement. You got to get back to walking up the steps, pretty straightforward. But it's nice to have those little projects where it's just like, I'm going to change your life. Here we go.
Nice.
That's, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But
well, in a lot of ways, that's kind of what I'm doing with, we're doing some coaching, and then we're also doing pacing and crewing with our business. And in a lot of ways, it's the same thing. It's like some people need that tough love, and some people just need a kick in the ass. And you kind of have to figure it out on the fly. It's like if you go out to Leadville and you're pacing somebody that you haven't really spent much time with, you run a few miles with them and you just try and figure them out without coming straight out and asking them that. And then you just kind of have to figure out, like, do I have to coddle to this person and sort of baby them to get them to keep on moving? Or do I just have to start yelling at this like, do they need a drill sergeant? Like everybody's a little bit different.
Very true. How's that going? Like, what's the market like for hired crews?
It's crazy, man. Like there's nothing like that out there. Right. So at this point, we're, as far as I know, the only business doing this. Okay. And I've been open and public with it, on the podcast and whatnot. So I'm just waiting for, like, I almost hate to say it, but like other people to like copy our idea or something. But it's going really well, man. So what we're saying is, we're based in Colorado. So most of our clients are out of staters, people who are like, this year at Leadville, we're going to be pacing people from Texas, Nashville, Florida, people who want to do Leadville, but just don't know anybody out here. They got a couple extra bucks to spare, and they would rather just put some money on the table so that they know it's all taken care of. And there's sort of a professionalism to it since they're paying us. And, we'll sign a contract or whatever. Yeah, we're going to be here at this time. And then the night before the race, we'll meet up with them, find out what they're wearing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're going to meet you at this spot, approximately this time. And, but like Leadville this year, we ran out of people. And so we had to we're hiring out. We're pacing, a few people out there, and we've had to hire out. We're just kind of looking for the type of people who are going to be pacing at Leadville for free anyways, because so many people they go out to Winfield and just sit there and wait to pace somebody. So we're looking for those people. And it's like, hey, if you want to pace our guys, we'll pay you to do it. So, but we started it in 2019, and then last year was kind of a wash as far as all the races go. Like pretty much everything was canceled. So this year we're kind of getting our bearings a little bit more. And we're also working closely with a couple different race directors too. We didn't want to like be sneaking in the back door and making money at these races. So we're working closely with Human Potential Race Series and Gemini Adventures. And it's been a trip, man. I mean, and I only started this podcast because of COVID, and it's like the whole thing, COVID hit, and then like all the races were canceled, everything kind of fell apart. I'm like, well, what can I do just to sort of stay connected? And I just started having fun with like finding cool people and hearing all their badass stories and getting them out there.
Yeah. Yes. Heard you got a couple sponsors. That's pretty legit.
Yeah, for sure. We got Athletic Brewing, this non-alcoholic brewing company. They make NA craft beer. It's like really legit stuff. And we have a sponsor called On Pace Wellness, who's like a nutritionist. And then we have Exoskin as well. They make a bunch of different apparel, shorts, socks, all that, shirts, all that stuff. So
yeah. I have this hypothesis I've been kicking around. I was listening to your opening neurodiversity podcast.
Yeah.
You were talking about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to my younger self. When we first met, I was living in my car in the door-to-door organics, parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's a ways back.
Tell me your version of how you remember us meeting, because my version is probably similar, but probably not exactly the same.
Yeah. So to me, I got the hatchback that I mostly live in. And I had just come out to try to climb all the 14ers in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I'm working at door-to-door organics part-time, just driving out to the mountains any day I'm off. And I'm just there sorting through some gear, and you kind of roll up back from your delivery route.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to talking, and you're saying, oh, you know, one summer I lived in my truck and climbed a bunch of the 14ers. And I think I was going out to Quandary the next day.
Yep.
And, you know, you say, oh, you know, I'll come out there with you.
Yeah.
And this is, so at this point, like, ultra running to me is a thing that just superhumans do. You know, I had run like, you know, I had bullshitted my way through like a 4-hour marathon at that point and felt pretty good about it. But yeah, so we make plans to go out to Quandary. And then you were telling me, we were texting a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, I mean, I think I'm just gonna stay up all night and run around, and then I'll link up with you early in the morning. Already, I'm like, who is this guy? But so we meet up, we go out there. I think I'm more in like boots and gaiters. You're just there in like shorts, just kind of like just getting this whole new perspective on life already. And so we're out there, and I think you were dating and living with a girl at that time, and she was just happened to also be going out to Quandary later in the day. Yeah. She gets mad that you went with some random guy living in his car. You have a big fight and you break up. And so then you need a roommate. And I'm just like, yeah, I was going to go back to Maryland. I guess I'll just stay in Colorado.
You're like, I'll be your roommate.
Yeah. That's kind of how I remember it.
Pretty much, man. That's pretty much it. Yeah. I remember when I first met you, you had like all your belongings out in the parking lot. From your car, you know, and you're like getting everything organized and whatnot, rolling up a tent and a sleeping bag. And so it was, you know, I took one look at you and it was obvious you're like living in your car. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Who's this guy? I'm like, what are you up to? Because you had a bunch of camping gear and stuff. So I figured Colorado, I know what you're up to. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing Quandary tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's an easy one. I'll come with you. I think at the time I was training for Western States, if I remember right. But yeah, man. Then you ended up living with me a couple different times. You were
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were interesting times.
And for a while, it was you and me and Logan, and it was like the 3 different generations of dirtbaggers just living together and just going on adventures all the time. Yeah,
so I listened to your Logan podcast, which was phenomenal, I have to say. But yeah, I was thinking back to that Longs Peak, or two different Longs Peak adventures.
Yeah.
Where the one where I got separated from you guys.
Right.
You know, we're gonna go do the loft route. And Logan says, I know the route. Like, I got it, we're good. And we get up there to kind of the notch, and he's got no idea. And so we just keep kind of circumnavigating kind of down and around to the point of where we're not going to get up to what's that last little scramble called on the keyhole route?
It is home stretch.
Yeah, so you're supposed to come out around home stretch, and it's become very obvious that's not going to happen. And so we made our plan to kind of go down, keep going around, come up over the ridge line, kind of almost where like Lady Mary Washington would be, around that ways. And there was that big boulder field, and you guys had kind of gotten away a little bit. I probably like stopped to pee or something, and then it's so windy you can't hear anything, can't see anything. So I'm just trekking my way around, following the plan. And I remember I got around there and I looked at that ridge line and just kind of knew that was just not going to happen. So I decided, you know, I know which direction to go. I'm just going to go together. They should be all right. So I go down and I'm just bushwhacking through the Great Basin. I actually found this old jacket, probably from, 1980 or something. Somebody had blown off the mountain 10 years ago. And I pick it up and I'm like, well, I might as well grab this. Who knows? Because we're all dressed for running, I don't even know if I had a headlamp. But so we're out there, and I'm just bushwhacking through Great Basin, and I find a stream, and like, all right, this will probably turn into a trail. If not, it's going to be kind of flat wherever the stream is.
Yeah.
And I just follow that. Eventually, it becomes a trail. I make it out to the road. I hitchhike back, and then I guess Logan left the keys or something. because I remember hearing your story. You guys get back and you're all worried, and I'm just sleeping in the car.
Yeah. Dude, we looked for you for so long. Like,
I swear, like I thought I would hear I thought I would hear you guys yelling, but it was so windy.
yeah, it was. I know. We just turned around and we're like, "Where's Brendan?" And we're like, "Oh man, he must have like fallen into it, like somewhere, like a crevasse or something. We got to go up and look for him." And we're searching all over the place. And then finally, me and Logan look at each other and we're like, "Dude, it's kind of getting dark. Like, we need to get out of here. Like, I don't know what happened to Brendan, but we got to get out of here." So I think we ended up taking pretty much the same route out that you did. Like, we could see a road like 3 miles away, way down there. And then we just ended up bushwhacking out and then hitching a ride back to the car. And then
Why is
God damn it. Yeah.
I remember my greatest fear. I was like trying to hustle to get back to the car because you know what? I wasn't so much worried about getting caught out in the dark or anything bad happening. I was so worried about basically the embarrassment if you had to call, search and rescue or anything.
Right.
So I need to hustle back to the car so I don't have to, carry that burden.
Right.
Oh, I'll tell you this story recently. This is when I was living in Roanoke, going to PT school. And that's where what's called the Triple Crown is located. These 3 kind of scenic spots along the Appalachian Trail. I've transitioned. I call it the Appalachian Trail now that I live in Virginia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can make a good 35-mile loop out of it. And so I just go out there to do that one day. I left one drop bag, probably 33% of the way through it. And I had a late start because I had to work in the morning. So I started around 10, super underestimated it. But this is December too. It's like a few days before Christmas. And I'm probably 5 miles, maybe even closer. I'm getting close in the home stretch. And I'm getting tireder and tireder. And it starts to get beyond tired. Almost kind of like ataxic gait, which, just lack of coordination. And I sit down a couple times, build myself back up, keep going. And eventually I just start getting almost like tunnel vision, and you kind of get that feeling when you think like, I think I'm just going to pass out.
Right. And
I end up, I feel like coming and I just lay down on the ground. And I was up on a ridge line, which worked well. And I just straight up called 911 and I'm already pretty delirious at this point, and I kind of tell them where I'm at, like trail intersections. And the lady's trying to ask me what's going on. And I'm kind of just hypoglycemic, just kind of fading out of consciousness. And I just keep telling her like, I'm out of calories. And the lady's trying to figure out like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I'm on this trail, I'm out of calories. And I pass out and I wake up. That was probably a little after 5 at that point. And I was real glad I turned my headlight on, even though it wasn't necessary yet. But I wake up, I think midnight, maybe later, to just, like firefighters kind of like dragging me out of the woods. So I've just been unconscious in December in like short shorts and a thin shirt.
Oh my God.
About, I don't know, 5+ hours. And so that was pretty wild.
And you had to get rescued.
Yep. So it eventually. And this part is fuzzy. I don't know if this actually happened or not, but I know, my anatomy professor in school also worked part-time for the fire department. Okay. And he knew I had done like the wildfire fighting back in the day, and he was my professor. And I think he brought, a form, or he like basically brought me a fishing license, kind of the way that, if you have a $10 fishing license, you don't have to pay the $10,000.
I was going to ask you about that.
I may be totally imagining this. This may not have happened, but I think, he's trying to get me to sign it. My hands are frozen, I think just like trying to scrawl my name on this piece of paper. But anyway, yeah, shout out to Roanoke Valley Fire Department.
Dang. So did you end up with like frostbite or anything like that?
No, nothing lasting, fortunately.
Damn. You just passed out.
Yeah,
I'm out of calories.
Out there laying in the mountains for, I don't know, it was somewhere between 5 to 7 hours.
Whoa.
So you think, I mean, it's, you think, oh, I'm just going to go out for like a 30 some mile run. Worst case scenario, I'll be tired and I'll walk, nothing bad's going to happen. So that was pretty wild.
And so they found you because you put your headlamp on.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Cause I had rolled down, I guess, off the trail a little bit from what they were saying. Just went totally comatose for a while.
Dude, that's crazy. Wow.
But yeah, when you were telling that compass story, I was dying. Because we all, I heard it from his perspective too. I invite him along. It's me, you, Logan, and Compass is along.
Yeah.
And we start off and we're running up longs, and he was telling me from his perspective, we probably made it like 200 feet before he starts realizing, this trouble. I don't know. Same with, we brought that other English guy. That was a random assortment of people on one of those 13ers. That was kind of just a random adventure, but
an English guy. I don't remember that.
It was a friend of that girl from Door to Door I dated.
Okay.
But yeah,
Gosh, I barely remember that.
But I know that guy showed up in hiking boots, and I kind of knew he was in trouble at that point.
Well, Compass kept up with us all the way to the summit, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he did well. I think we took a lot of breaks. And he did well. He held his own.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we're heading down, I think Logan went his own way. And gradually we all started spacing out. We were going to meet up where that porta potty is at that intersection.
Right.
But somehow he got off in some random trail that goes, all the way down to, what's the name of that town?
Goes all the way down to Estes.
Yeah, that's Estes Park. It goes all the way down to Estes Park. And so I get there and I'm waiting at the porta potty for kind of a while. And I think I came down a little further. I think I met up with you and I'm like, is he with you? And you say no. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go back up.
Yeah.
And I remember by that porta potty, there's a big rock because it started to I think I went all the way up to maybe about the keyhole. And somebody's come down. I was like, hey, is there anybody behind you? And they're like, nah, we're it. Like, this is it.
Yeah. And
I went back down to about the porta potty, just trying to figure out where he's at. I think it started to rain a little bit and kind of hail. And you never want to be that. Some guy, I was like huddling behind the big rock. Some random guy gave me a poncho. And I thought, you never want to be that person who's not prepared in the mountains. Who's not thinking like, I was prepared for me.
Right.
I just wasn't prepared for, I didn't have do big things with me to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But yeah, we eventually give up and we go down and we talk to the Rangers. And I don't know if you remember this. We went and got burritos.
Right.
And we brought him one. And I remember us dying talking about what if we gave this guy a tortilla full of jalapenos.
Oh, we should have. That guy was starving by the time he found us.
Yeah. That was probably the adventure of a lifetime for him.
No kidding. He's probably just like, that one time I went with those guys. Those guys were, yeah, I can only imagine what he's thinking now about that.
Yeah, I hope he's doing all right. He called me a couple of years ago. He's an alcoholic, and he called me having a relapse. So I put him in touch. I put him in touch with a couple of AA friends I have out there. But I lost all my numbers because I got a new phone, and the SIM card I had was too big. So I ended up just cutting it with scissors, and it worked as far as making phone calls and everything. But I lost all the contacts, so I don't even have his number anymore.
Okay. Yeah, he contacted me randomly a couple years ago too, and then somehow I lost contact with him. But yeah, I probably wouldn't even recognize him if I saw him on the street nowadays. Well, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I went to go grab a long sleeve shirt.
Chilly. It's all right.
But yeah, so hopefully he's good. I mean, I know at one point he was looking at, he wanted to be like a PA, like a physician's assistant. So
okay.
Yeah, I don't know what he's up to anymore. Hopefully doing well.
Yeah, hopefully not getting lost out on mountains and so hungry he asked passerbys for some food and they hand him an orange and he bites into it like an apple.
Oh, yeah. But entire tangerine without peeling it.
Well, the funny part about that story was we reported him missing to the Rangers and then waited around for a while and we're like, well, there's not much waiting we can do. So we might as well go get some food. So we went all the way down to Estes and we ordered some burritos. And while we're sitting there eating, one of our phones rang or something. And it was the ranger. And he's like, yeah, we found your buddy. And we're like, oh, okay, we'll go get him. Thanks so much. But then we hung up. We're like, well, let's finish these burritos first. We're hungry, man.
Hey, what were you guys doing while I was out starving in the mountains?
Hey, at least we brought him a burrito.
Here's what a stand-up guy Compass is. I give him that burrito and he tears into it. And he only made it about 2 bites before he was like, hey, I'll pay you back. We're like, nah, dude, it's good. Like, enjoy it.
Oh, that guy, classic. Well, how about the time when Logan and I were going to go out and do Nolan's, and you volunteered to hike us out a drop bag, like way out down Pine Creek Trail, and you hiked like 15 miles in and hung that bag up in a tree or something, and then we didn't even make it that far on our Nolan's attempt that year. And then you were like, well, what about that drop bag that I left you guys? And we're like, yeah, it sucks you had to do that. Just leave it, dude. Like a week later, you went out and got it.
Yeah, I went back for it. I went back.
I don't even know what was in it, but I'm surprised the bears hadn't gotten to it.
Yeah. But, it was a good hike. Honestly, the only bad part about driving back out there and doing that hike again was there was really bad traffic coming back. Otherwise, it was a solid little trip.
Dude, there always is. The traffic's just getting worse and worse out here. It's horrible.
Yeah, I think if I had to come back to Colorado, it would be probably like Durango or something.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I've totally switched it up. Got the fiance, settling down. We'll probably buy a house here before too long.
Nice.
I was just daydreaming. I saw somebody post about this trail that goes the full length of New Zealand. Probably a little shorter than the AT, but you just start daydreaming about that. You just want to be like, babe, you don't know what I give up for you. Like, old me would have just, buckled down for 2 months, saved up a bunch of dough, and headed out there.
You can't talk her into coming with you for something like that?
No, she does all right on day hikes. I'd be curious how she would do on an overnight one, but yeah, she's more of like, she's kind of like an adult emo kid, very introspective, good sense of humor, voracious reader.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, last time I was out in Colorado and she came out to visit, I took her up Bear Peak. I was thinking like, I run up this thing, it can't be that bad.
Right.
But there were tears.
Oh, dude.
you know that first little, right around the saddle where you could go over to Green?
Yeah.
And I think we made it there maybe a little bit further. And I just kind of convinced her, like, this is basically the top. Like, you pretty much did it. and then in typical Dirtbag fashion, I said, you wait here. I'm going to go up and I'll be back.
Oh, that's hilarious. Dude, I hate to say it, but I've made, God, I'm an asshole. I've made girls cry on Bear Peak, and I've made several girls cry on Longs Peak. It's like back in the single days when you're just like dating girls. Yeah, I took this one poor girl up Bear Peak, and she did okay on the way up, but then on the way down, she was just hating life, and she just wiped out. And it was just a little fall where her feet went out from underneath her, and she fell on her butt. And I turned around, and she's just like, she's just like, oh shit. But yeah, no, I've made several girls cry up on Longs Peak, unfortunately. So
yeah, I mean, when you get really good shape, it's easy to lose track.
Yeah, I underestimated. I'm like, anybody can do this, like keyhole route. That's freaking easy, right? But no, apparently not.
Yeah, I have this hypothesis I've been kicking around. Swinging way back to, I was listening to your first episode here, and there's so many stories of just whether it's somebody with chronic depression, any kind of addiction, they fall into ultra running.
Yeah,
I have this hypothesis. It's all potentially related to whether it's having a neurodiverse brain or a bad childhood. Whatever reason, you just kind of don't fit the pattern wherever you grow up, some people, they just fall right in, kind of lock and step, do the kids, the job, you know, just kind of follow it along.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing that and it keeps accumulating, you know, you just, the more you feel bad about yourself as kind of your baseline,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you got to go out and run 100 miles to feel the way just a regular person does after a 5K.
Right.
So they look at, you know, if you'll see on like Facebook or something, someone will say like, "Woo, ran a 10K, loving it,"
Mm-hmm.
and which is awesome. It's always good to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think honestly, I would be curious to hear your perspective on that for like a me or a you. It's almost to get that same feeling, it's times 10. And that's why we gravitate towards this sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree, man. I mean, there's so many people in the sport of ultramarathon that come from backgrounds of like addiction or they were like super big weightlifters before they got into ultra endurance sports, or they have some bad trauma from their past that they're either trying to run from, or, you know, yeah, it's so weird, man. And yeah, I've often thought about it with the alcoholic thing, like recovering alcoholics, like so many of them end up in ultramarathon sports. And it's like, I haven't quite been able to put my finger on it, but it's like, it's more socially acceptable, right? If I'm falling down on the trail after being out there for 24 hours, my friends are going to be there to help pick me up and say, "Oh, it's okay, man, keep going," and get me to the finish line. But if I am an alcoholic and I'm falling down drunk, you know, everyone's like, "Dude, you're a loser. You need to get help, man. Like, what's your problem?" And then, and also it's like going out on a long weekend training run, going out for an 8-hour run or something like that. It's like a way to kind of get fucked up, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's like you said, it's more socially acceptable than going out on a bender. But yeah, man, I mean, there's definitely parallels there. It's pretty strange. There's so many people that come from mental illness and addictive tendencies that end up in this world. I feel like most ultra runners probably have something in their past. They have a screw loose one way or another, like something's up with them.
Yeah, an interesting bunch. That was kind of, it was like the give and take of moving from Colorado to Virginia. It was a lot harder to find somebody to go, you know, do that 35-mile run.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I was so used to, say, like if I went out with you and Logan and I'm the slow guy, and then suddenly I roll up to this kind of smaller town in Virginia, and I was like mowing down Strava segments, like the trail segment.
Yeah.
I remember one guy getting irrationally angry about this. You know, some guy commenting just like "bike?" and just walking around all day like, "F you, I'm not even fast, dude. It's not my fault. You're even slower than me."
Oh, I know, dude. Like everybody here is an athlete in multi-sport athlete, you know, it's crazy. Everybody in Boulder, like they're getting up to kayaking and mountain biking and running, and everybody's into 3 different sports at least. Yeah. What are some of your
out there?
What's
Sticking
that?
around there for? I mean, now that you got the business, you're probably
Oh
set up
yeah.
there for a while.
Well, for sure. I mean, yeah, dude, I love Colorado. Like Boulder just doesn't get old to me. I can go up and down Green and Bear like every single day and they just don't get old to me. Some people get sick of running the same stuff over and over again. I just did Green and Bear both yesterday. And every time I get out there, I'm just like, man, this is like, I'm so glad I live here and I can run there right from home. So yesterday I did Green and Bear from home and it was like, I don't know, 15 miles or something like that. And dude, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be open to moving other places in Colorado, and you know, there's other states that are awesome, but I just feel so spoiled here. I love it. Yeah, I'm not moving anytime soon.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
That was a way, kind of, yeah, I think a lot about kind of like the autism brain and how some things, I guess I'll put it this way, some things you work on and some things you work around.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I'll have that compulsion towards kind of collecting or kind of hyper focus type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, there's always good ways to spin it. You made me think of this talking about running Green and Bear a lot. There's this little mountain in Roanoke. It's honestly more of a hill. You get about 700 feet of gain from the base. But but yeah, when I moved there, I just decided I'm going to count how many times I run this mountain. And I think I got up to like 284 or 86 over a few years. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of just a good lesson for everybody to just think about what are some immutable characteristics that you view as negative, and how are you going to spin those?
Yeah.
You don't want to become that guy who becomes a hoarder and like collects something non-functional. God,
Right.
7,000 newspapers. But if you can turn that into, I'm going to count how many times I run up this mountain.
Yeah.
Kind of the way to go.
No, I was just going to say, that's like the ultra runner brain right there. I think back to when I was a kid and I did the same thing. Like, I remember when I was a kid, we were out camping and we went to this place that had a water, like one water slide. It was like a small campground. They had one water slide, and I decided I'm going to go down this thing as many times as I can today. And I just started going up and down and up and down. I'm counting, and all the lifeguards are like, how many times now? I made it to 100 times up and down this thing 100 times in one day. And all the lifeguards are like, no, I don't think anyone's ever done that before, And I'm just like, I wonder if that was like the start of me, like running crazy ultras or something. Like I just had that screw loose right there, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something different. I guess everybody would do it if there wasn't a little unusualness.
Embrace the unusualness, right? So what else do you remember about us living together? I want to hear some of your, this one popped into my head the other day that I was laughing about to myself. But I want to hear some of your stories. So you and me and Logan were living together, and you had some girl over, and you went in your bedroom, and Logan just blasts this song, "I Just Had Sex." I think that's the name of the song. He blasts it so loud, and we were just giving you a hard time because you were in your bedroom with your girl. And the only thing I remember is you walking out of the bedroom like stone faced, and you walk right up to Logan and you just punch him right in the stomach and turn around and walk right back in your room.
And then because I could do the Chromecast from my phone, and I think Logan was single at the time. Yeah. So I think I Googled some song about kind of menage a moi and played that over the TV.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you might have hit all the, like, I don't think I'll ever see something again like rappelling off the balcony.
Oh my God, that was classic. Yeah. In case anybody didn't hear that one, our old roommate Logan had to rappel off the 3rd floor balcony to go clean up all the dog shit that had splattered all from our 3rd floor balcony all the way down to the 2nd and 1st floor balcony. And so yeah, our roommate Logan's rappelling like Spider-Man down the wall to go clean up this diarrhea mess. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, probably never quite see anything like that again.
No.
Or just a hammock in the tree, because why not?
Yeah. 3 floors up, why not? But you and I had a good trip when that Thanksgiving that we went out and we biked at Moab. We biked the Slick Rock Trail at Moab, and somehow I went over my handlebars and busted my hand. And then we went and ran the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim the next day.
Yeah, that was a good trip. Oh yeah, that was another case where on that final push, getting back up, and you'd gone out ahead. And that, at that point, my whole running career has been, when I did my first marathon, the longest training run was like an 8-miler. But by the time, I'm going out for the rim to rim to rim, I've done a marathon. That's the longest.
Yeah.
When I showed up to Leadville, that one had been the longest I'd done. So just this absurd and impractical leapfrogging, which, it remind me to try to get into like some running PT related stuff.
Yeah.
But let's see. Where was I going with that?
Rim to rim to rim.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you'd gotten out ahead, and I finally make it to the top. The car's not there.
Oh yeah.
should I wait here? So I hop on the bus, and this lady who is almost at the end of her shift driving the bus drives over to the other place and you're not there. And I kind of talk her into driving back to the other spot, and she's real not happy about it. I think we finally met up at the other parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember getting to the top, and how did that work out? I just remember being worried that you were going to be stuck out there in wet clothes with not enough warm clothes, and like freeze your ass off or something. So like I think I was in your car, and I drove it to one spot and you weren't there. And then I drove it back, and I started getting worried. I'm like, oh man, he's going to be freezing out here. And then finally we found you.
Oh yeah. Walking around that buffet.
Oh, dude, you were crippled. You were crippled after that, man. You were so, oh, dude. And then you came home from work the next day, and you were like, if I hear one more joke about being gang raped in prison, my top.
Yeah, that door to door, just such a love-hate relationship.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was fun for what it was worth, but yeah, I don't miss that place at all.
Nah, I met some good folks, but
yeah, for sure. For sure.
So you don't want to go work for Mr. Ty's cleaning company now? You never
Mr.
took him up
Ty's?
on that one?
No, is that the place you worked for?
No, that was the one of the senior executives of Door to Door who tried to talk you into working for his cleaning company.
Oh, yeah, I gotcha. No, thank you. He ended up hitting me up here recently about something else too. Like we went out for coffee, and I don't know. It's just like every couple of years that guy shows up, and it's just, he's a good guy, but yeah, no thanks. No, I don't want to work for a cleaning company.
Yeah. Finally, later in life, I've kind of curtailed most of my anti-authoritarianism.
Oh, dude.
Just like, where's the boss? You just got to rebel against him just for no reason.
I know. I have a hard time working for other people, man. I just got to work for myself. I'm just that old curmudgeon that I don't like being told what to do. I have problems with authority, I guess.
Yeah, sounds like you made it happen.
Yeah, we're getting there for sure. We're getting there.
What's it like starting your own business? I have a couple of wheelchair attachment ideas have been kicking around. I've been into 3D printing lately, so I'm making a few prototypes.
Really?
And I've seen a couple of things that are similar to what I want to do, but I think I have better solutions to the same problem that I can do cheaper. But it becomes, do I have to carry $1,000 a month liability insurance? At which point is it not worth it, kind of thing? Like the product on the market I'm kind of looking to replace, they sell theirs for $200. I think I have something better I could probably sell for 30, but it's just a matter of what's the liability kind of thing, and how much of a habit.
A wheelchair attachment? Like what kind of attachment?
Yeah, I don't want to give out the secrets. I'll tell you.
Okay.
But
yeah, man. I mean, let's see. How did we all start? Like we're insured for sure. Our insurance was, I can't remember exactly how much it was. We had to pay annually, and gosh, I mean, it was like $500, something like that. Okay. I don't think it was any more than that.
Yeah, how does that work? If you have a unique company, you just start calling insurance companies and just say, hey, what do you charge if I'm running next to a guy for 100 miles?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so we contacted a couple race directors, and we're like, who do you guys get insurance through? And then we contacted a guy who does guiding up in the mountains. He guides people up and down some of the peaks and the 14ers and the boulder peaks. And we contacted him, and we were like, who do you use for insurance? And so we just started asking people, really. And then, yeah, we contacted a few insurance places until one place told us yes. And all we needed was that one yes, so that we had insurance, so that we could, get the ball rolling, really. And so yeah, it's all like trial and error. Like we don't know what we're doing. But we've got plans for the next couple of years to take this thing to the next level again. And I don't really want to tell those secrets on air. I'll have to tell you off air, but
yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping to ramp this thing up to the next level. So who knows, man? Like we don't know what we're doing. We don't have a clue. But we just built a van out, and it's pretty sick. We got this Mercedes Sprinter, and we just had it built out. We got the logo on the side, the big things crewing and everything. So when we're driving that into Leadville, man, it's going to be sick. And I think people are going to want to work for us too. So like I said, you know, if you're pacing for free, hell, come work with us. We'll pay you to do it.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like Uber pacing in a way, almost.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, we're just trying to think of this new thing.
Make that app now.
Yeah, right.
Even if you're not going to use it for a while, just get it locked down. Uber pacer.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole idea just came while running a 100-miler, you know, and it's just like, I wonder if you could ever just make this into a business, you know. I had a buddy pacing me and we just knew each other really well and everything was clicking really good. And it's like, you know, it's like we've done this so many times. You can just take a look at a guy at mile 60 if he's struggling and kind of figure out what he or she needs. It's like, okay, dude, you need a little salt or you need a little sugar or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, I think there's opportunity here. So who knows where it'll go, man? Who knows? But we're having fun.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, when you know, I signed up for Leadville, which is my first 100. I think you and I, we just ran up green, I think, at midnight. Took a few shots of whiskey out of an empty coconut water bottle. Ran down and signed up for Leadville.
Yeah, that was on New Year's Eve.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and then we trained pretty regularly on green. I think you and I would go out there at least once a week and run it pretty hard.
Yeah. And then I ended up getting kind of some low back pain, and I was working those crazy hours. That was when things were next level crazy at door to door. So I was working those 90-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Basically like the 2 months leading up to it. And you know, having this low back pain that now, if I knew what I know now, you know, I could have nipped it in the bud and, you know, a couple weeks and been good. But yeah, I remember having probably run like 80 to 100 miles total in the 2 months leading up to Leadville. Going up there, like, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Were you pretty nervous the night before?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and there was like, it was kind of a commotion. You know, there was a bunch of folks over. Some random guy was talking loudly about how he switched to acro yoga is what I mainly remember. Well, I just sleep on the couch. But yeah, I remember I woke up, I was feeling pretty good at the start of the race.
Yeah.
That one, I don't think I really died during Leadville until coming back over Hope Pass. So I was a little over halfway before it went into kind of Sufferfest.
Yeah. But
that was yeah. If you're ever looking, check out the Grindstone 100 if you're ever looking for a East Coast ultra. Okay. I ran that one a couple of years ago. Using the term ran lightly there, at least after mile 2. I had volunteered at it the year before at the aid station. It's out and back, so I think it was like 36 and then 72. But yeah, coming back through there, we were telling those, it was the same folks, and I told them, you know, sign me up to volunteer next year because I ain't doing this shit again. But yeah, there's a big climb going right out of there, and it's more kind of East Coast mountains, so it's undulating. There's not as much up Hope Pass, down Hope Pass. You know, it's just constant up and down. And I think going up that climb, I just laid on the ground. My brother was with me. It's like, just kick me in 5 minutes. Ooh, that one was a struggle. But the last one I did was a real fun one. It was very flat, which was a change. What was that one called? The Yeti 100.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of glad I got in the lottery. Somehow they're a Western States qualifier.
Okay.
Even though it's got 3,000 total vert, you know, the whole race.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite in, you know, you always want to be in better shape. I was still in not great shape, but I was still, you know, running kind of intervals by the end.
Yeah.
I think I took a 20-mile break to just walk during it, but that one was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, my theory is just the race director of that one is a really cool guy. You know, I met him and he's just one of those guys with that magnetic personality. Okay. I'm just like, guy's awesome. Yeah. So my theory is that has to do with them being a Western States qualifier.
Okay.
Just the race director being a cool guy.
Was it expensive?
Nah, it was like $300.
Okay. That's not too bad. Normally, like you have to pay. Normally, the races that are Western States qualifiers are a little bit extra money because that race director has to pay like a fee to be a qualifier or something.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I'm in there. I'm randomly in their video they put out at like the recap of me just brushing my teeth at an aid station, which that's a free tip. Do big
yeah,
things should pick that up.
yeah.
Especially because I know you were talking about the lozies. I'm still heavy on the nicotine lozenges.
Oh yeah.
And I honestly I think if it wasn't for the association with tobacco,
You try this stuff?
I'm big into those too.
Yeah.
See, I think if nicotine wasn't historically associated with tobacco, I think it would be prescribed. In some cases, especially like ADHD, which has it has similarities to Adderall.
Well, it's prescribed to Alzheimer's patients.
Yeah.
Like nicotine gum.
Yep. Like, and Parkinson's too.
Oh.
Like if you're trying to not get Alzheimer's or maximize your chance, it's basically good sleep, exercise, and randomly nicotine seem to be three of the biggest things.
Crazy.
Yeah, I love working with I work with a lot of dementia folks.
Really?
Which can be difficult, but when you're tired, it's very hard. But when you're feeling good, they're the funnest people to work with. Like this one lady, she's telling me, I want to go out to the courtyard and feed the birds. I'm like, okay, I wanted to, work on your walking balance anyway. We'll walk on some uneven terrain. So we walk out there. This lady just walks up to the grass. There's no birds in sight, but she just reaches into her pocket and pulls out this full sandwich still in the wrapper and just kind of drops it on the ground. I remember just kind of dying watching that. But yeah, they're some of the funnest people.
Dude, I don't think I could do that job. I'm glad there's people like you.
It's all about finding the right strategies. I imagine it's similar for like childcare.
Yeah.
Like this one guy I'm working with, he was a welder when he worked. So when I want him to do something, if I want him to walk to kind of get a little bit of that practice and exercise in, I'll say like, hey, I'm not sure about the the welding on this window, or I don't know what metal it is. And then he'll kind of like, oh, I'll go take a look at it. So with that population, it's all about, you got to kind of learn their little tricks,
their language. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of half the fun.
Can you tell me, was this MIG welded or TIG welded?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stuff like that.
That's
so
funny.
That's kind of the funny thing with them.
Yeah.
It's not like, the times I've been working with runners, you just tell them what to do and then they just do it and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, man, I've been having a bunch of lower back pain. So, do you have any tips, tricks, anything I could be doing, should be doing?
Yeah. Well, give me the rundown. Like when does it come on? Any activities, time of day after certain things?
Lower back pain. It's on the right side. I once went and had a massage and she said that I was really tight on the left side. And so I was somehow compensating. That's why it's sore on the right side. But, it hurts pretty much most of the time. I mean, when I'm on my feet, it really hurts. Like standing in one place is really painful for me. Like I'm always fidgeting around and moving around. When I sit, I try and sit with good posture because otherwise if I'm slouching, it really messes my back up. And when I'm running, if I'm running downhill, that seems to really affect it.
Okay.
It's really sore afterwards.
That's kind of what I had right at like leading up to Leadville. And I kind of have a 4-point, like kind of a 4-step strategy I use for that. Are you having it right now as we're talking?
Sort of. I mean, I'm trying to sit good posture, but yeah, it hurts.
Do you want to run a little experiment?
Yeah.
Do you know the cobra pose from yoga?
Yeah. Where you're on your stomach and you're kind of pushing up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly like that. So what I want you to do is try 10 of those in a row. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the top, kind of like exhale and really let your hips sag down. Mm-hmm. And try a few sets of 10 and see how that does. You can look up what's called the McKenzie method, which the story of how that came about is hilarious. It was this New Zealand They would be physiotherapists over there, which I think is a lot cooler than PT. I think they go by physio. But basically somebody comes in, low back pain. He had this treatment table where you could lift up half of it, and he tells the guy, okay, go in that room, lay on the table. I'll be in there in a few minutes. So he goes in and he sees the guy laid on it face down instead of on his back. And he's been sitting at this super pronounced arched angle. And, he comes in, kind of makes sure his eyebrows don't shoot up to his hairline. Plays it cool. Like, well, how you feeling? He's like, oh, this was great. I feel way better. And so you're still pretty young. So a lot of times that low back pain responds well to repeated extension. And extension is leaning backwards. So that's one of the four steps I use for what you're talking about.
Okay.
Another one is kind of core strengthening and activation. Kind of, there's some muscles called the multifidus that are kind of deep there in your spine. Do you know the bird dog? Do you know that exercise?
No.
So you're in a quadruped position, hands and knees.
Yep. And
what you want to do is lift up right arm and left leg, and then left arm and right leg.
Okay.
And a lot of times if you're by yourself, if you don't have somebody watching, you can put like a broomstick or, something across your back, kind of right around your hips to see if you're leaning too far over, it'll fall off, is a way to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
So obviously you don't want the broom part of the broom handle, or that would throw it off.
Yeah.
But, and you're an athlete, so you can do things like add TheraBands or, hold a little weight or something. But yeah, I like that for kind of getting that core going. I do a lot of neurodynamics. So if you're there's a few different ones I like. One is if you're laying on your back and you pull your knee up and you're kind of you're trying to hold your knee tight, but you're pushing your knee out at the same time, and then coming back in and pushing that knee out.
Okay.
That one seems to do pretty well.
So that's like muscle activation therapy kind of, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are all the same, but different people have given them different names.
Sure.
Like in PT, there's dry needling, which is just acupuncture.
Okay.
Yeah, and isometrics work very well, especially for what you're talking about. Like, say if you stood next to a wall and kind of lift your leg up, especially the one that's bothering you, and you try to push it into the wall as if you were trying to move the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, and then things like what would be called the pigeon pose, kind of things like that to get the piriformis. I'm not big on static stretching, especially for athletes. I kind of like more dynamic things. Like, do you know the pigeon pose?
Yeah,
I know you're kind of a yoga guy.
Yep.
So I'm gonna have somebody like you do that. I wouldn't do so much of, I hold it for 30 seconds as much as a really slow, like kind of pushing into it and pushing out of it. Because, the more you learn about pain, it's kind of one of those things that the more you learn, the less you think you know. And, old school is very, I guess, biomechanical, where, they might tell you something like, oh, you have a muscular imbalance, which I think is only one piece of the puzzle. You got to kind of think of pain as think of it like your body's alarm system. Like if you sprained your ankle and, you kind of ruptured a tendon, that's kind of supposed to hurt because you need to, as new collagen is being laid down, you kind of want that a little immobilized for at least the first couple of weeks or so as that new tissue is being laid down. So,
right.
So pain is valuable for times like that where you shouldn't be moving it because it needs to heal. But also, just it can get a little out of whack. And I mean, stress and just day-to-day life plays a huge factor into it as well.
Right.
Just kind of just sensitizing your whole nervous system. But have you had any big changes in your running or your training or day-to-day life since you noticed that pain coming on?
Not really. I mean, it's just like the more I do, the more it hurts, and I'm always doing stuff. you know, I'm always out on the trails. I'm always lifting weights. I'm always stretching. I'm always doing yoga. So I'm always really active, but it's just like the more I do, the more it accumulates, the more it hurts almost.
Yeah.
I mean, stretching out first thing in the morning usually helps. You know, I'll get on YouTube and look up like yoga for lower back pain, and it helps to a certain extent, you know, but it doesn't really make it go away entirely. So
Yeah. I have this whole kind of guide I typed up for a friend. I think it was like Christmas or her birthday or something. Pretty similar to what you're describing. I'll have to send it your way.
okay.
She only has one arm, so there'll be like a lot of details that are kind of weird, like put a yoga block here where you only have one arm. But maybe I'll take those out, or I'll just leave them in.
You have the weirdest friends. Oh.
This for, I think I recently added the isometric, so I've kind of got this 5-point plan for the low back pain. So I'll have to send it. It works for me. Like times I've felt it creeping up, you know, I just kind of nip it in the bud.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and I mean, you know, people want to always jump straight to things like their back hurts, so they go and get an MRI, and then there's a disc bulge, so they say, oh, I guess that, you know, that must be what's causing it. But if you had 100 people get MRIs, you know, half of them have back pain, half of them don't. At a certain age, they all have disc bulges. So it's not the be all end all, you know, probably a contributing factor, but it's not like disc bulge equals pain. Sure. Or same things like labral tears in the shoulder. Like if you're 65, you have a labral tear, whether it hurts or not, most likely.
Okay.
So bodies are real complex, and a lot of times it's not as much biomechanical as learning how to retrain kind of your brain to not hurt. How long have you been having that back pain?
I mean, off and on for years. I mean, probably a decade or so at least.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like the thing. I think people will talk about like an old injury, you know, creeping back up. Like, oh, I think when I was a high school football player, I sprained my ankle and now I'm 60 and I think that's why it's hurting. Which, you know, it's not like there's I wouldn't say there's no truth there, because if you had that injury, you know, some neurons got laid down that are related to that ankle hurting in this example. So it's not like it's complete BS, but also it's not really a good mindset to have.
Right.
If that makes
Yeah. Yeah. So much of it's mental, right?
Yeah. It's good to keep in mind, you know, bodies are super adaptable. You know, that's kind of that's an interesting thing. You know, I work mostly with old people now, but the concepts don't change where you need to have 60% of your 1 rep max to get strengthening. You need to have at least 60% of your heart rate reserve to kind of have aerobic adaptation. So that's still true even if you're 70. So, you know, I'll warm them up. I don't jump right into it. But after a couple weeks, you know, you can have, you know, an old lady whose shoulders hurts. I mean, it'll still only be about 3 pounds, but if you watched them, you'd think it was a 50-pound dumbbell. You know, it's good not to view people as fragile as much as you.
Yeah. What is some general advice you'd give to runners to, you know, stay healthy? People who might be somewhat injury prone, or they're just, you know, it's summertime's coming up. Everybody's ramping up mileage a little bit. Do you have any like key things that everyone should be doing to stay on top of things?
Yeah, just progress slowly. Especially if you have good baseline fitness, say if you're a cyclist or, you know, whatever. I mean, not in the same way that a football player, but running is, you know, relatively high impact in terms of accumulation. You know, if you're trucking down Green Mountain, you could be putting, you know, 7 times your body weight going up through, you know, your legs and your ankle and your knee and your hips and your back. Which is, you know, humans are built for that kind of thing, but you can't just jump into it.
Right.
You got to build up and adapt to it. So, you know, the 80, what do they call it? The 10% rule is out there for a reason, where, you know, just try to add 10%.
Mm-hmm.
every week. And sometimes that can seem super frustrating, which is why, saying if you're already an athlete, because you'll have the baseline fitness to go out and do way more than you might be ready for. And muscles and aerobic capacity, they're going to develop way quicker than what we would call inert tissue, like your meniscus, your ligaments, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I would say, where a lot of people get themselves into trouble, is being pretty fit, and just progressing too quickly.
Yeah.
So, do yourself a favor and take the extra time. It's kind of, I've been laughing because this main guy I watch as far as dividend investing goes, he's almost like my inverse, where he draws a lot of investing comparisons to how he's trying to build up his running. And, he'll be saying like, it's slow but steady, and you can eventually build up to even like 5 or 10 or a half marathon. And, he's probably got millions of dollars. And then I'm on the other side where, I'm like $1,000, but, but yeah, I mean, I was taking that real serious. Last time I was about to make an effort to try to get back into ultramarathon shape. I think I only had one job at the time, so that's fallen to the wayside. But I was doing a lot of lifting and cross training and just short runs. I easily could have gone out and ran 5 times as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew muscle memory comes back quick, because as your muscles develop and get stronger, they get more nuclei in them. So even if you sit on the couch for a year, if you get back at whatever activity you're in, you're gonna get it back way quicker than somebody starting from zero.
Totally.
But I kind of knew that the non-musculoskeletal tissues would not be ready for that. So when I would go on my long runs, which would be about 10 miles max at that point, if I would start to feel it a little bit in the knee, I don't jump straight to, well, I guess I have an injury. I just kind of know, well, that's my limit right now. That's when,
okay.
My body started barking. So I'm going to follow that. That's my max right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, sometimes you have big goals. Like when you hear about David Goggins duct taping his shins to get through a bunch of hundreds, it's, hey, if that's your goal, that's fine. But
sure.
if your goal is to stay healthy,
yeah,
you really don't be pushing through pain. The saying of like, no pain, no gain. You got to replace pain with hard effort for it to be accurate.
Yeah. 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 It makes sense, man. Like, yeah, once you already have that pace and you've run, say you've run half a dozen 100-milers, what your body's capable of. And then, you can take an extended amount of time off. And, I'm not saying this to brag by any means, but most of the year I could probably do a 100-miler off the couch. It wouldn't be pretty, but I could get it done, just because I know what my body's capable of. And sure, I wouldn't be breaking any land speed records, but I could go out and get it done. Yeah, man. Cool. Well, that's good stuff. What do you think about ice baths?
Ice bath?
Yeah. Do you get into anything like that?
No, I mean, don't know a ton about it, to be honest. A lot of things like ice baths where it's not going to hurt anything. Same with like K-tape. Anything that's not going to hurt, I just say, hey, if you want to try it, go for it. If it makes you feel better, stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like praying.
Yeah, sure. It's absolutely not going to hurt you. So by all means,
go for it.
To try.
That's true, man.
Yeah, but there's a lot of this will relate back to one of my like broad theories on just humans in general, and how I kind of get this idea that what everybody, before they realize it, is looking for, it's like everything they do is based on trying to feel important and trying to feel included, which I think then roots back to survival. When people were living in little tribes, you can't get ostracized or you're toast. So the two ways to make sure that you're part of the tribe are kind of to be well liked or to be important, have some skill or something like that. Which was my weird segue into how, some people are super pro or anti kind of maximalist hokas or minimalist shoes. And more I get this impression that they've kind of just adopted that as their tribe. Like I have and run in both, you know, like I'll run in Hokas and, you know, I have some zero shoe sandals.
Mhm.
You know, it's not a camp you have to be in. Like I was reading a study from somebody that put out and this person just kind of is known to be a little bit biased to the barefoot side of things. And this study was comparing kind of minimalist and barefoot running to standard running shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost had to read the fine print where it was written in a way to say there were fewer injuries on the barefoot side of things. But that was just because there was fewer miles overall with those folks. So if you read the full discussion, you saw, if you control for injuries per mile, it's the same.
Mm.
And a lot of people are out there kind of dumping on Hokas lately. Have you kind of noticed that at all?
No, I guess I haven't. Why?
Yeah,
What's going on?
I don't know if that's in your world, but yeah, there's kind of, I mean, these things, you know, they go back and forth, the pendulum swings. So,
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people are really down on the Hokas lately, and it's not based on good evidence, in my opinion. Are you still running in Hokas?
Yeah, pretty much whenever I run roads or something non-technical, I'm in Hokas. But if I'm running something technical, then I'm usually in like a standard trail shoe.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, you've probably met those people who, you know, they were saying, you know, as soon as I put the Hokas on, I started feeling better.
Right.
So, you know, it's not like that's imaginary. Mm-hmm. You know, that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's only two or three studies looking at Hokas and maximalist shoes. And what they found is that there's a higher ground force reaction in terms of just, you know, hitting the ground harder. But all of those studies have been using force plates that are on the ground. You know, and to me, the whole point of that big foam is force attenuation. So to run that kind of study, it seems to me you need the force plate in the shoe, or at least a comparison of, because they make insole force plates.
Sure.
So you don't need a comparison of the two or something in the shoe. Plus, you know, the correlation between ground force reaction and injury also isn't that solid in and of itself. Same with, you know, people get heavy into forefoot, midfoot, rear foot striking, which there's only, I mean, I tried to browse this again over the last few days. It's been about a year since I was reading heavily about it. But there's only really been two big studies on the topic. One was a military study with the benefit being it had 1,000 and some subjects. The downside being of that study, they found no correlation between foot striking pattern and injury rate. But it's also, if you're dealing with folks in the military, you know, they might also be going for 20-mile hikes with heavy backpacks, and you know, it's hard to tie that specifically to foot strike pattern. There was another one which it only looked at about 52 or so people, but they were collegiate runners, which I think is a little bit more of an applicable sample size. And they did find about two-ish higher injury rate with the heel strike. Though I kind of think discussing it in terms of forefoot, midfoot heel strike is a flawed paradigm to begin with. It'd probably be better to think of it in what's called angle of inclination. So first, just think of a really exaggerated heel strike. You know, it's coming down, it's at about 45 degrees to the ground, and kind of visualize that angle between the bottom of your foot and the ground. And that's the angle of inclination. So if you were landing on your toe, that would be a negative angle of inclination.
Sure.
And I think we'd see a lot more interesting results if we just tossed out the classification based on fore, mid, or heel strike, and instead put it in categories of that angles of inclination. Because if you're just barely contacting with your heel, that's technically a heel strike, and it's probably not that different from landing just a little bit on your metatarsals.
Sure.
So that might be part of the holdup. Because I mean, I do have a bias to say that a really exaggerated heel strike is not the best. And really, if you're having, say, pain in the front of the knee or shin splints, really things along the front there, usually shortening your stride and increasing your cadence, which will kind of accomplish the same thing, and kind of backing up where you're landing are usually going to pay you the best dividends there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know anybody who like runs on their tippy toes, but I imagine if you did, you'd probably potentially get some metatarsal
For sure.
fractures.
Yeah.
So as with most things in life, there's a happy medium where as long as you're kind of within it, you're probably good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people run on their tippy toes. I used to work in a running shoe store where we would do gait analysis for people, and some people would come in and they're just all tiptoes. And I'm like, good God, you're going to have problems. You almost have to relearn how to run. But we would teach people to aim for the midfoot. It doesn't always, sometimes you're landing, like you said, the heel's touching a little bit, but more importantly, it would be to strike 180 times a minute, 90 per leg. And that's pretty much for everybody.
I'll give you a tip there for your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
180, that's just like an old number that's been thrown around. It's not a scientific number.
Okay.
What I would recommend you do is just add 10% to the cadence is a good place to start.
Add 10% to what you're doing?
Yeah, if you're having pain in the knee,
Okay.
shins, I would start by just adding 10% instead of going straight at 180. Like my resting cadence is usually low 160s, and I'm not having any injuries. So
sure.
I mean, 180, that's a fine number to throw out there. It's within that general range. But you'll probably have more success, especially if you're out, coaching somebody and you want to throw a little bit in there. Usually adding 10% is a good place to start. They might be at 140 and, jumping to 180 would be a huge change.
Okay.
Yeah. You got any athletes you're coaching with IT band syndrome?
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. One in particular.
All right. Watch them run and I'll bet you $100. This is on the record. So they're going to have excessive adduction during the swing phase, which what that means is, as the leg is coming forward, you're going to notice it's going to land across midline.
Okay.
This is almost always the pattern you see with IT band syndrome. And it's large. Do they run mostly flat ground, this person, or do they do a lot of vert?
He's training for Leadville, but he lives in Nashville. So he does vert, but it's not boulder vert,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I always find this to be more common if you're doing a lot of flat running, but a lot of that is related to lack of eccentric control in your hip extensors, kind of the gluteus medius and maximus. Because as your leg is coming forward, that means your adductors, those are the muscles on the inside of your leg. They're picking up some of the slack to slow down how fast your leg is coming forward, once it's past the point of acceleration.
Okay.
And so since you're using those inside muscles on the legs, they also happen to pull your leg in. And this is a very common pattern you see. And I remember I was experiencing this way back in like 2010. This is when I didn't know anything, and you go out there and you try and read and people are like, oh, foam roll your IT band or do, sideline, leg raises, which that's kind of the sideline hip lunges or clamshells are on the right track, but you really want to make stuff functional if you want to see it translate into your running. So what you want to do exercise wise is more like put a TheraBand around either your knee or your ankle for resistance and kind of do like big monster walks where you're stepping way out to the side.
Okay.
Because you want to do something that's similar to running to kind of get that motor pattern to be associated. And another good thing to do is just gait training. Like you could either, if you're a treadmill runner, you can use chalk or like a soap bar to put a line in the middle of your treadmill and just kind of try to watch it, try to watch where your foot lands. Or if you run at a track, the line's kind of already there. So be that guy who takes up 2 lanes,
Right.
Try to have your foot land on either side of the line. And when you're trying to do that gait retraining, even though people kind of hate this, but it's good to say, run a lap or however long you can focus on it and then walk a lap. Because the more time you spend running, doing what you were doing, the longer it's going to take for you to kind of retrain that. And it always seems to me like people hate to be like, oh, I'm in my dry fit, I'm in my Solomons. Like, I don't want to be walking at the track, but you can only concentrate. You're trying to make it go from conscious to automatic.
Yeah.
And you can only concentrate for so long. So I always find those run to walk plans are very beneficial, whatever it is you're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, try that with your guy. Kind of adding a little more kind of hip abduction, like gluteus medius kind of stuff. Resisted sidestepping, the big tall walks where you're really kicking your leg out to the side, kind of stuff like that. And sometimes a little rest. Like I would tell your guy, get on the bike for 2 weeks,
right,
while you're doing this stuff.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, like I had when I first moved to Roanoke, I'd been in Maryland for a while, and I was doing mostly cycling and some flat running, but no vert. So when I first moved there, I just started running up this mountain every day. And I got a lot of calcaneal tendinopathy on one side, so because if you're running uphill, you're kind of always going to be having a little more relative dorsiflexion, which is where, your foot's bending up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little extra strain that tendon wasn't used to. Mm-hmm. So I just, I rode the bike for 3 weeks and did kind of eccentric heel drops and that kind of stuff. Good to go. But that was another good example of where, it's a lot of times a rapid change where whether it's you switch up your shoes, go to a lower drop, suddenly you're running trails instead of pavement. You added a bunch of vert out of nowhere. It always seems like you were just building up too close. You ran 20 miles a week for 2 months and then started feeling good and just jumped right to 40 miles a week.
Right.
I would look at that before I would look at anything. I would look at changes to your training program and just look for any big changes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, man. This client of mine that's really having the IT band problems, God bless him, man. He called me up and he's like, listen, I just started running 6 months ago and I signed up for Leadville. Can you help me out? I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, all right, dude, that's a tall order, but we can probably make it happen, as long as, you do everything I tell you. And as long as we can avoid injury, that's going to be the biggest thing. And he's doing all right, but yeah, IT band problems is his biggest issue.
Yeah. Get him to send you a video of him running. Okay. That would be my guess. Is it unilateral just on one side?
Actually it's both sides. His right side was hurting really bad at first, and then that healed up and now it's his left side.
Okay. That's my guess. Get him to send you a view of him running from behind. And my guess is his leg is going to be kind of swinging over.
So he's swinging it around and landing past the midline.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. That's the first thing I look for with, lateral knee pain.
Got it. Cool, man. Yeah, man. Like the whole running form thing intrigues me. Like, I saw this guy the other day whose running form was just immaculate. It was just unbelievable. It's like, wow, that is the model. That's how you should be doing it. And he pretty much learned how to run barefoot. He started barefoot, then went to minimal shoes, and now he wears, Hokas from time to time. But he's very upright, and he's doing probably 190 a minute, high turnover rate. And it's just like, wow, that guy's, and he doesn't have any injuries. So he's doing something right.
Yeah, there's definitely truth there. I mean, I would be much more inclined to say there's such a thing as bad form before I would say there's good form. I mean, this is injury wise, performance wise. Of course, there's going to be a specific way where, your muscles generate the most force with the least amount of effort kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of physics. So hard to deny.
Yeah, sure.
I would say as long as you're within, a decent range and you've built up slowly, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. Like, going 6 months to Leadville is not a person I'd be surprised to hear have an injury.
Right.
I wish him the best. Teach that guy how to fast hike,
Yeah.
Maybe jog a half a mile, walk a mile.
For sure. Yeah, totally.
Just hike, hope pass. Coming down too will beat you up more than people realize.
Yeah.
Where your glutes gotta do that eccentric control.
Yeah, and you're just pounding those quads.
Yeah. You ever know anybody that got what's called compartment syndrome? I mean, probably not as a runner because they just wouldn't have become a runner. Yeah. But this is where at the front of your shin, you know, on the right side of your tibia there. It's almost like it's congenital in a way. Like some people, just the pressure really builds up there, to the point of where it just gets too painful. And they used to try to treat it with just fasciotomies. That's all they could think of, like literally cutting the leg open and trying to let it heal with more room. But those folks have very good results with switching or midfoot or forefoot patterns. Okay. And the reason is that when your heel hits the ground, kind of some of the main muscles there on the front, like the anterior tibialis, what they have to do is they have to do work to slow down how fast your foot comes down. And if you just think of kind of the fulcrum and the physics of your heel coming down and then your foot coming down, you know, the muscles at the front of your shin there, which do eccentric work to control your foot coming down, have to do a lot more compared to, you know, if you're landing at the mid or the forefoot, they just don't have to do that. So if you ever, I mean, I highly doubt anybody who has that going on is gonna be hitting you up for ultra marathon advice, because either they figured it out or they're just not distances. Yeah. But I feel like I hear that a lot of soccer players, you know, play half the game, legs just gotta go out. Yeah. But yeah, that's anything like that, like shin splints, you're going to benefit from switching to a more forefoot pattern. And anybody you come across who wants to transition to minimalist footwear or zero drop, you just got to really reiterate, like, it's a month-long process. Yeah, for sure. In terms of making that switch. Yeah. Yeah. In all the research I was reading, like, you know, I kind of, for like several months, I guess, I was kind of autisming out on running research. It was like everything I'd read, you know, would have 10 notes, and then you got to go read those. And you keep digging in. And that was the common theme I kept finding, whether it was comparing pavement to trail or this to that, was more often than not just the rate of change. Because even, you know, one study I read, the way your body reacts when you're running on pavement, like it just kind of almost by nature kind of lets your joints and stuff bend a little bit more, you know, kind of turns you a little more into, I don't know, a shock absorber. Okay. So yeah, a lot of the things I was coming across injury wise, that was the common theme, just big changes too fast. Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool, man. You got any races coming up this year? Yeah, I don't know. Got any random questions PT wise? I don't know. I think that pretty much covers it for the most part. No, I think I might have cut out for a second there. Do you have any races coming up this year? Are you doing anything? No, when I was starting this was about March was last time I was really getting a good routine together, building up. And I was looking at the CNO 100. I would like 100 under 20 hours is, you know, my next thing. Yeah. Right now I'm sitting at 22 is the best I've done. Okay. So I was, you know, that one's close by and it's flat. After, honestly, Grindstone just destroyed me. I think that has, I think it's 24,000 feet of vert or somewhere around there, 27,000. Nice. So that one beat me up pretty good. And, you know, I used to always just be like, got to go up, got to go down. Like, why would anyone run on flat ground? Right. But I don't know. Lately, I was starting to appreciate the flat ground. So I was looking for basically a fast ultra, but yeah, just the work is getting me down. So I think until I move closer to my main job, I'll probably just be a bit of a hobby jogger. Yeah. You know, here and there. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. But you're hitting the weights. You're doing like, I don't know if you're doing cross training or what, but it looks like you're like focusing on deadlifts and more like Olympic lifts too, huh? Yeah, I was doing a lot of weightlifting for a while. Just kind of bouncing around a few things, you know. I was really enjoying the fan bike or the assault bike. Oh yeah, yeah. You know, doing intervals on those guys because it doesn't give you as much recovery. Yeah, when you're using your arms too, that lactic acid has nowhere to go. Totally. So those are pretty good. But yeah, that's a good. I mean, intervals are great for boosting your endurance quickly. So so when I finally get back into serious training, I'm going to focus a lot, or I was starting to focus a lot on interval training at the start, just to build up quickly. You know, there was some CrossFit guy who, they evangelizing about training, and I think he did maybe Western States with his longest training run being 13 miles. And he was just 100% into interval training.
Wow.
I would focus a little more on specificity, doing whatever it is you're trying to do. But yeah, as I was building back up, from an injury perspective, that's why I was trying to focus on short runs and heavy lifts at the start.
Okay.
Because I knew I was in basically a high injury risk category with high base level of fitness. I kind of knew I would build up quickly, and oftentimes that's when you get yourself into trouble. I'll make a plug that let's say most research shows that running has no correlation with knee arthritis.
Really?
Yeah, usually it's quite the opposite. The only thing I've come across is those very, very high level folks, like consistently 100 miles per week or more.
Sure.
That was kind of the only times I would see any increased association with arthritis. But yeah, I read this real interesting study. It only had 6 subjects, but the study was just so cool, where they had 6 runners, and they would either have them sit still for 30 minutes or run for 30 minutes. And then they were taking samples from the fluid in the knee joint and then just their regular circulatory system outside of the knee. And they were looking at a few biomarkers. One of them, it's like cartilagometric or cartilaginous oligometric protein matrix or something, which is associated with arthritis. And they were finding, after you've been running for 30 minutes, there's way more of it out of the knee and the general bloodstream. And if you sat still, there's way more in the knee. Because, knees and really all your joints, they work as kind of pumps, like osmosis. Like you got to move it to kind of pump the bad stuff out and the good stuff in.
Sure.
So yeah, as far as if anybody tells you you're going to bust your knees by running, you're probably not. Quite the opposite, unless you're getting a little too wild.
Well, it's always the non-runners that say that. Aren't you worried about your knees?
Yeah.
You're going to wreck your knees. I'm like, dude, you don't run at all. Like, what do you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I figured I'd make that plug.
For sure. 100%. Right on, man. What else is new with you? Anything else? You getting married? You got a great job? You gonna buy a house sometime soon?
Yeah, getting married. Working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, what else am I up to? Since I moved to Charlottesville, when I lived in Colorado or even Roanoke, most of my friends were, kind of more mountain or athlete folks. And almost just by coincidence, most of my good friends in Charlottesville are kind of more nerds. So I've just been drifting way more like board game type stuff, just because that's who I'm around now.
Yeah.
You still doing a lot of reading?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I read this great book. Semi-recent, came out in 2019. It's called The Outside.
Okay.
And it's kind of dystopian future where it's basically humans made AI, but then it started improving upon itself, and they became basically all powerful. And there's a bunch of them. They kind of mirror Greco-Roman gods in a way, but they also fuel themselves based on human souls. So it's not like they could just wipe out humanity. They kind of need them. But there's also within the book, there's kind of this alternate space of being, that doesn't conform to, Newtonian laws of physics and stuff. And anything that comes up about it, the robot gods always suppress it. And it's very puritanical. If anybody studies it, they call it, being a heretic, and anybody who gets associated with it. But the underlying theme is very much just kind of, viewing the world a little bit differently. And kind of seeing these things, but everybody just tells you you're crazy and you're wrong for almost kind of having a different reality.
Sounds familiar.
So, yeah, I highly recommend that book. I thought it was great.
Okay, right on. Cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've been reading a bunch of fiction lately, old stuff. I'm always into the old stuff. And a couple authors have sent me books that I want to be on the podcast at some point. So I'm reading their stuff too, but I always have my nose in something. Yeah, I got my library right back here. But yeah, I'm always reading something. It's always something different. I'm all over the place with my reading. A lot of fiction.
Yeah, I'm pumped. My fiance, she's a voracious reader. And finally she's reading Dune, which is a little more in my wheelhouse, kind of like a sci-fi.
Yep.
So we finally are able to like discuss a book.
Nice.
Usually she's reading something that's, I'll either read like sci-fi or Malcolm Gladwell, kind of nonfiction.
Yeah. What's she reading?
But yeah, it was, all over the place. Let's see. What are some of her favorite? What's his name? That Japanese guy.
Haruki Murakami.
Yes, that's her favorite. Like she loves
He's
Murakami.
awesome. Yeah, he's got a new short story book out. I'm looking forward to digging into.
Yeah. So, but she, every time she tells me what she's reading, it's something different.
Yeah.
So she's all, I've been enjoying her, reading Dune because it gives us a little connection there. But our perspectives are so different. Have you ever read Dune or the story at all?
I know a little bit about the story, but I've never read it.
Okay. There's this one semi-minor character who kind of, betrays the main character. And the reason was that his wife had, been kidnapped by somebody else. And her perspective, she was telling me like, well, I never built up an emotional connection because they didn't tell any stories about him and his wife from the past. And, I didn't get why he loved his wife so much. And that was kind of interesting. Like to me, I just read it like a straight up autist where it's just matter of fact, like, oh, he loves his wife.
Right.
Therefore, he won't do this other thing. Kind of thing to get her perspective on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
You ever go on the Wall Street Bets subreddit?
No.
I recommend you don't. That's how I was losing money before I got a good strategy together. But I find it hilarious. Like whenever somebody types up a really good analysis or does something really smart, they'll refer to them as, they'll say like, good job, autist, which I think some people take offense to that. I take it as a compliment. Like, when I'm in the zone, I'll sit down and read 100 articles about running research just for fun. Like a lot of the stuff I came to know was because the professor who previously would do a lecture just on running shoes left to go to another program, actually out near you. She's out at Regis now. But the two guys who took over that course, they're kind of more like stroke, prosthetic, amputation type guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of knew they were going to just be winging it for the running shoe lecture day. So I just pitched to them like, oh, you want me to give it?
Yeah.
And that kind of just set me on like a 2-month rabbit hole of just, I'd be sitting in class, supposed to be learning about Parkinson's. Like, oh, sorry, I was reading this study about foot strike. But that's just kind of how the autism life is. I've just learned to enjoy the ride. Once something grabs you, it's almost better to just lean into it if it's productive rather than try to fight it and, do whatever it is theoretically supposed to be doing.
Hey, do whatever sets your soul on fire, right? If you're interested in it, dive down that rabbit hole. So I'm trying to think what I'm going to title this podcast now, like Dr. Autist or something like.
Yeah, sounds good. So I virtually guarantee I'll never actually write an autobiography, but I did decide if I ever did, it would be titled, "It's hard to get in-state tuition when you live in a tent."
I love it. Or the Subaru.
Yep. Subaru's still going.
That's awesome.
I got a leak in the air conditioning, which, I'll probably end up just driving with no air conditioning for 3 years. Well, squeeze the last of the life out of it.
You can duct tape that up, can't you?
We'll see. I charged it, I put the Freon in to see what was going on, and instantly right at the high pressure seal, it just kind of started bubbling out, and it was like, well, there's the leak. So we'll see. I'm limited on time. I kind of don't want to bother paying somebody to fix it. So
Yeah.
I'll probably just put the windows down and be sweaty for a while. We'll see.
Good heat training. That's how I trained for Western States. I drove around door to door organics with the windows up and the heat cranked
Really?
all summer.
Ah, fascinating. Yeah, that's something that always used to boggle my mind. Well, this made me think of that because, you used to just stop on your routes and like go for a run in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was delivering for door to door, it was like locked in, no lunch breaks, not thinking about anything but delivering till I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things looking back that always now it kind of makes sense, but would always like fascinate and amaze me about you is you would just randomly kind of like, oh, I just decided to do Bikram yoga today, or just on a whim picking up random things. I know for me it'd have to be like, all right, I need to read about Bikram yoga
Right.
for at least 2 weeks, practice it by myself, and then I'll consider going to a class. But yeah, you always see this, this other guy just on a whim, like, oh yeah, just took out the mountain bike today.
Yeah.
And I'm always kind of like, well, if I'm mountain biking, I'm in mountain biking phase.
Okay.
There'll be no running or no anything else.
That's that autism brain, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's all about, that's something I'm trying to teach that guy I alluded to at the beginning, who's, pretty morbidly obese.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy basically cries every day. He's just, I'm trying to teach him how to just get some self-efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this weird situation where it's like, I can't push too hard, but he needs a little bit, kind of like you were talking about with pacing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I finally figured out, I mean, over and over, like one of his repetitive themes is to kind of start crying and say, I feel like I'm not making any progress. I'm worried I'm not letting you down. And I was thinking about him the last couple of days, and I think the reason he's doing that is because then I start telling him about like, no, you're walking 50 more feet than you were last week.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing this, you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what he's really after is the positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to shift that? How am I going to teach him? There's other ways to get that.
Yeah.
I think what I'm going to
some tough love.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out if it'll work to just tell him that straight up. We'll see. Yeah, it's hard to know what he's going to be able to handle. Don't want to push him too hard. But I think before he goes home, my suggestion, he's kind of worked in like fast food, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have a lot of confidence. I think I'm going to tell him like, dude, go to, something like a tire shop or whatever, something kind of stereotypically like manly. Mm-hmm. And just go in there and say, hey, look, I know, I'm in my 30s and I don't know anything, but I'm looking to get started. Just be upfront with them and say, hey, half the day, I'll scrub the toilets. The other half the day, you teach me about lug nuts.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see if, I have this vision because that guy is emotionally draining. I always save him to the end of the day. It always ends up being like a 60 or 80 hour session with a lot of tears. So before I go to see him, I try to visualize, me just walking in about 2 or 3 years. I'm just walking around town somewhere and I hear somebody say my name and the voice sounds familiar, and he's like, oh, you probably don't recognize me. I'm so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it's this 200-pound guy walking a dog.
Yeah.
And then I just get to be like, yes, I fucking did that.
Yeah.
I changed your life. So we'll see if it works out or not.
Good luck, man. I mean, that's not an easy project, but it sounds like he needs to build up some confidence from somewhere. Like, is he good at anything? Like, is there any avenue of his life that he can focus on and get good at that and somehow build confidence from that and take it to other aspects of his life?
Yeah, I know he's a gamer. I think he was pretty big into World of Warcraft. So I think if he can turn that into some type of programming or even like support, something like that. But I mean, it's a challenge to be sure. It's like starting from ground one.
Totally.
Or I don't know if that's a phrase that people say. I might have just made it up. Start from old ground one.
Yeah. Get that guy out running or walking first.
Yeah, that's what we're working on now.
Oh, dude, he'll be running in Leadville in no time.
No time.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Right on. Cool. I think we did it. Anything else?
Yeah, it was good to catch up.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, dude, I got to tell you, I was listening to your first podcast and you sounded...
Dude, I was in bad shape then.
Yeah, you sounded a little forlorn, and I kind of know how that gets. So I just wanted to tell you, you were kind of my ultra running mentor. I learned a ton from you. So,
Cool.
I think you've done a lot more good than bad.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all the bad that I did was to myself.
All right.
I
Yeah,
never wanted to hurt other people, but I didn't mind hurting myself,
that's fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was in bad shape when that first one, when I put that first one out. But I decided I want to, like, I suck at public speaking. I suck at conversations in general. I never talk on the phone. So I just decided, what the hell? We're talking about do big things. Why not jump right into it? And I'll start speaking in almost like a public forum where all kinds of people are going to be listening to this. And I'll start doing these long form conversations with my old friends and strangers and whatever. And maybe I'll get a little bit better. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've honestly, I've enjoyed listening to yours.
cool. I
I
appreciate
stopped
it.
listening to, I stopped listening to podcasts a long time ago because my mind would wander
Yeah.
so often
Yeah.
that I would kind of get lost. So it's only very certain ones, occasionally like a Mark Maron podcast or something that
Yeah.
I'll actually be able to pay attention to.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been digging yours so far. I don't know how this one will fit in where you usually have like renowned renowned world record holder or whatever, and then like random roommate.
No, that's all good. Perfect,
We'll see.
man. You're a doctor. You've got the knowledge. You can pass it on. And hell, sometimes I just like catching up with old friends on podcasts. And I've got episode with one of my old tattoo. He's a tattoo artist, and he's one of my old buddies that we used to just like do tons of psychedelics with. I did an episode with him. I've got a bunch of old ones with old friends that don't necessarily fit in, but they're cool to me. So people can take them or leave them. I don't care. Did I lose you? Are you there?
Oh yeah, you're back there now.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, let's end this thing, but stay on the line for a second. I want to talk to you real quick. So, but thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, come to Colorado. We miss you out here.
Gotta get back up there.
I know. We miss you.
I got to tell you some crazy youthful autism stuff that I'm not going to tell you on the podcast.
Awesome. All right, man. Cool. Well, thanks for doing this. And Brendan McNulty, the man, it's not on social media pretty much anywhere. You're not going to find him. Maybe if you run some ultra marathon out east or have to go to a PT for something, you might run across him. But otherwise, he's just it's like two ships in the night. Just
true. If your grandmother goes to a nursing facility in Virginia, she might get to work with me.
That's it, though.
Dude, I got to tell you, old ladies love me. Like I am the old lady whisperer.
I can imagine.
I kind of learned how old guys work. You just tell them whatever they did, you make it the most important thing ever, and then they're all about it.
That's cool. That's
you know what I missed out on? I had this pre-canned line I wanted to drop at some point about how sometimes people like to shit on Hokas. And just yesterday I was helping this lady get from her wheelchair to the bathroom, and she literally shat on my Hokas.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that's horrible.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you just gotta know how to laugh to work in that setting, and then you're good.
Oh, God. Well, I'm glad you can do it, man. I would not be able to do that job. Good on you. Well, killer, man. Stay on the line. I'm going to end this real quick, but thanks for doing this. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
you're a badass. Yeah.
You too, brother.
All right, man. Shoot. That's not it. Give me a second. Record.